Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to Dr. Jeffrey and also my fellow classmates. Today we will be presenting about CEFR, Primary School Materials. So this presentation will be presenting by me, Rahman bin KAMARULZAMAN, Muhammad NAJMI bin ZAINUDDIN, and lastly by KAMALESH anak lelaki SIVAGURU. So I will be starting my presentation by talking about introduction to CEFR. CEFR, or Common European Framework. CEFR is the prevalent international benchmark for language instruction. The CEFR defines language learners' abilities at various stages of their development. The CEFR is language independent and can be used in any situation involving studying a second or foreign language. The CEFR is a globally recognized framework for describing language learning, teaching, and assessment. CEFR provides detailed description of what foreign or second language can do in terms of listening, speaking, reading, and writing at 6 levels of proficiency. So basically, language learners have traditionally been described rather vaguely as beginners, intermediate learners, or advanced learners. They are given letter grades such as A minus, B plus, or D, or numerical scores in report or transcript. But these grades and numbers do not say much about what a learner is able to do in the target language. But CEFR is a little different. As you can see on the left side of this slide, that is a table of global scale that identifies 3 broad levels of language proficiency, which are basic, independent, and proficient. But it goes further and provides can-do statement at each level to describe a learner's ability in some detail in also in a positive manner. In this way, we are given a clearer idea of what the levels actually mean. So that is all about CEFR. So I am going to talk about materials. So basically, teaching materials mean materials used by an instructor or teacher, such as class notes, examination, educational software, books, articles, laboratory manuals, books, works of visual or graphic arts, or other teaching aids for the purpose of explaining concept to the students or evaluating their performance. But for materials are real-life materials that students came across every day. The example of material is like if a person goes to a restaurant and sees menu card, it is not a material, but it is an option to order the food or not. And if a menu card is given to the students as a task, it will become material. So materials benefit the tutor to bridge the gap between classroom knowledge and students' capacity. So let's talk why using materials are important. There are 4 points, which are students can learn new structures, grammar, vocabulary, and many more. Using these materials to teach the English language can make the learning process even more engaging, imaginative, and motivating for the students. Using materials enable both the teachers and students to participate actively in and effectively in lesson session. And lastly, it also gives room for acquisition of skill and knowledge and development of self-confidence and self-actualization. So that is all from me. So I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hello doctor and friends, my name is KAMALESH SIVAGURU and my metro number is 151848. And I am going to continue the presentation by explaining the types of materials. There are two types of materials which are task authenticity and input authenticity. Such materials might be not specifically designed for classroom use, but they are used in real life situations that can help a learner to learn a language. The first type of material is task authenticity. An authentic task is a task that native speaker of the language would do in the everyday life. Every learner do an authentic task, they are doing something that puts real communicative demands on them. Learners can apply what they learn in classrooms and continue to learn more in the setting that is relevant to them. For an example, a learner need to plan a trip around their country for a group of students on an exchange trip. There comes two types under the task authenticity, which are stimulate task authenticity, which is non-academical task, and minimal or incidental task authenticity. Stimulate task authenticity is aims to provide an experience close to the real thing as possible. However, a simulated activity has an advantage of allowing the learner to reset the scenario and try alternative strategies and approaches. And the second type is minimal or incidental task authenticity. Incidental learning is some form of indirect or additional or unplanned learning where the learner learns something without having the actual purpose of learning. And these are the few examples of task authenticity materials, which are essays, interview scenarios, and performance tasks that give by the teachers in the classrooms. The second type of material is input authenticity. For the purpose of reason studies, the term authentic input is defined as songs, games, stories, and other pedagogical materials that are used in the target language. This type of authentic input is more adequate to the particular needs and the personal interests of the learner. There comes five types under the input authenticity, which are genuine, altered, adapted, stimulate, and inauthenticity. Authenticity is something that related to real life, and these five types shows how related the materials are in our real life and help us to learn the language. And the first one is genuine, that creates only for realm of real life, like newspapers, which is real for the real life purpose. And the second one is altered, originally changed without changing the meaning, as we watch a movie for a 5 minutes and do a vocabulary task. And the third one is adapted, created for real life. For an example, teacher can change the vocabulary and grammar to simplify the text. And the fourth one is stimulate, written by the teacher in an authentic way. For an example, the conversation has been spoken by the real characters. And the fifth and final one is the minimal or the incidental, created for the classroom but not in the authentic way. And these are some of the examples that shows input authenticity help the learner to learn something indirectly. Songs, games, rhythms, and also play chanted by the learners who speak the targeted language. These materials help the learner to learn something that can help them to learn the language indirectly while they are doing some other tasks. And now we are going to take a look about some of the examples of materials that use in primary schools, which comes under the task authenticity and input authenticity. And for listening, we can use presentations, audios, and educational videos. For speaking, we can use role plays, conversational scenarios, and TV shows, which help the learner to communicate within each other, which is relevant to their real life communication. For writing, we can use flashcards and storybooks. And finally, for readings, we can use real life materials such as newspapers, magazines, textbooks, and recently we can use internet resources, which is much more effective for the reading materials. Based on what we have looked before, materials plays a central role in language learning. Students are different in terms of intelligence and in terms of learning style. Some prefer learning using the audio materials and some prefer learning through the visual materials. And teachers must be make sure all the materials chosen in the classroom must be full of effectiveness and engaging to show how teachers cater the needs of the students. And teachers also must be creative and resourceful enough to make sure all the materials in the classroom is suitable for every student. Materials are also must be chosen selectively and sit effectively to make sure the learning and the teaching process much more engaging. So that's all from me. The next presenter will continue the presentation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is ZAINUDDIN. My metro number 151313, and I'll be continuing with the advantages and disadvantages of CFR, especially in primary school. Uh, okay, let's go on. And one of the advantages of CFR is number one, language learner and teachers can be more independent. So because of the transparency of the educational topics and the material chosen in CEFR learning, language learner and teachers can learn and work more independently. So you can choose any material that close to you independently, but still on the framework of the CEFR. Second of all, the CEFR is a base for everyone. So is a base. The base is very important to create a curriculum in European countries, but also to write educational books in different languages. So it's a base for everyone, not just in Europe, for the entire world, to learn using this CFR framework. And it also can be learned not just for English languages, for any other languages in the world. So it's very helpful using this CFR. Next up, number 3, the focus of CFR is communication as one of the advantages of CFR. This is because the basic skill for good communication are important. Therefore, you have 4 parts in every language exam, which are writing, reading, listening, and obviously speaking for a good communication. So, communication is a forefront in CEFR in order to teach language to learners. Number 4, it creates a clear plan for students. So, I mean, despite not having a specific grammar or vocabulary goals, it does provide a goal to students in which they can do work using the can do statement. So, for example, the student have this maybe as a side goal that they can do something during the lesson. So it's very clear plan created in the CFR for student. While we are talking about the advantages of CFR, there are also some disadvantages of it. So number 1, there's no specification. So having a purpose in completing test tasks facilitates goal setting and monitoring, but CFR is not helpful because there's no specification. For example, in the sub-skills of comprehension, how to recognize the structure of the text and purpose of which we use the language, it's pretty much teach us every single language the same. Even though learning a certain language is much harder than some other languages. So for example, if you learn English and other languages, it's not very the same sub-skill you need to acquire. So it's not very specification, but maybe it can be review or renew or can be fixed from time to time. Number 2, that the can do statements could be considered to quite vague. So they are merely provide an idea as to what the student can do. Therefore, you could easily misidentify as a level. So the can do statement do not say how well you can do something, but it insists that you can do it instead of say, oh, you can do this in this level, but it is this say that you can do it, but that is specific how well you can do it. So that there's a few disadvantages of CAFR. So in conclusion, the CAFR is designed to help students achieve a standard level of language that will be accepted both nationally and internationally, because Malaysia use CAFR as well, and also as all the country around the world. And the CAFR also emphasizes what learners can do in the languages, allowing them to concentrate on the strength rather than their inadequacy. However, to fulfill its function, the CFR need provide a clear formulated information that should be comprehensible to all users. So I believe that CFR can be reviewed and can be changed from time to time in order for it to be a well established framework for the rest of the world to learn new languages. So that's all from us. Thank you.